Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Book 1, Law of Salimi Chapter 50, Rebel with a Cause. I do not follow trends and fads. I do not consider myself to follow what is popular in the masses of society just because they are popular. In fact, I despise to be a follower. Added with my curse from my abilities, I became a misunderstood rebel, which mostly appeared to be odd and weird in the eyes of the masses public. Most people who had met me claimed that I was arrogant and highly political based on their own perception and judgment over me, possibly from their misconception from the way that I dressed. In reality, I feel that I was on the other end of the spectrum from what was perceived upon me. I tried my best to be the most humble while I free myself from any political ties or involvement from any sides, which derive huge criticism and scrutinies from various numerous scholars. I was never angry or despised those misconceptions about me because I assumed that most of them do not possess adequate knowledge and perspective about me to make such judgment. In addition, I was mostly pleased when those who had spent time and truly knew me always admitted of these misconceptions. Again, I blamed no one. I swam against the current of popularity and desires of the masses public, which was based, in most cases, from materialism and hedonism. Instead, I uphold my understanding in the teachings of Islam as my way of life. If I seemed to be weird and odd to everyone around me, it would be safe to assume that I was not in the wrong. While it was extremely rare to meet someone who can see who I really am deep inside my heart, I do meet them in my journey of my life. I believe that respondent 001 did saw who I was when I studied at the university, even though he never clearly stated it out in the open. I realized about it when he started to share with me his deepest thoughts and theories to console my own life and the difficulties that I had faced during the duration of my studies. He said it was never an easy task for a person to walk such path. Yes, he was mysterious that way, which might resemble the character of Yoda in Star Wars movies. Furthermore, respondent 003 had admitted to me that I was unique and I walked my own path in life, similar to her own, which was the pursuit of truth. If you watch over the pictures that I had included in this book, you could see a certain trend where I was similar clothed in most of the pictures. Why do you think that was? Was it intentional for me to choose the same clothes for all of the pictures? The answer is no. The reason was simply I do not buy something when I still manage to use the current items in my life. In my clothes, I rarely buy a new one, simply because I inherited most of them or received them for free. As long as I had something to wear, I do not buy a new one, which means I do not care much about fashion and trend in my life. I am not an extreme cheapskate because when I do buy things in my life, I do spend for quality items. For example, at 17 years old, I bought a Casio watch, which was very expensive at that time at around Rm 200 ringgit. In 1998, in around 2008, it finally broke, which spurred me to buy a new one as a replacement. It cost me around 400 ringgit for the newer version of the same Casio watch to replace the predecessor that lasted for around 10 years. At this moment, I am still wearing the same watch in 2015, which meant that it has been around 7 years. While it was not absolutely perfect, it does function very well, and I do not intend to buy a new one until this watch was broken, hopefully in many years to come. This concept was practiced in my life based on my understanding on the teachings of Islam, which encourages moderation in living. It means that I should not be extremely cheapskate nor too extravagant in my spending. Clearly, to the reader, my action might be considered as odd and weird for not following the current trend and fashion, for choosing to live in moderation based on the teachings of Islam. As I stated before, I do not care what others think about me as long as I am doing the right thing based on the teachings of Islam, with knowing that Allah the All-Knowing knew my intention in life. Please do not judge me by claiming that I am bragging in my book to write about my lifestyle or my perspective in my life, because I simply wish to share my own view in life based on my own understanding about the teachings of Islam. At the age of 23 years old, I bought my last pair of spectacles, which lasted about 10 years. While it was still wearable today, the scratches that I had on it had made it very difficult for me to see clearly. Thus, at this moment, I recently bought a new pair of glasses, which will be known as Moi, which I might or might not explain the reason why as its replacement. Hopefully this time I would take care of Moi and avoid to make any more scratches to her. My last pair of spectacles cost me around 400 ringgit, which was very expensive back then. My Moi was much more expensive at 1,050 ringgit, considering I had to purchase one that does not break and does not scratch, which was similar to its predecessor. Considering the last one was still available as my backup spectacles, I intended to wear this one for as long as I could, possibly beyond the age of 10 years. It was very rare to find another human being who shared the same values that I was in terms of spending and living in moderation based on the teachings of Islam. It was also very difficult to find another person who had spectacles to last more than 10 years without even changing its glasses nor frame. The same applied to my earlier laptops, which was an Asus brand. It lasted about 12 years old. As its replacement, I bought a cheaper version of Asus, which lasted about 7 years. At the moment, I am using my current laptop, which I call Ash, based on the character of Princess Ashelia Binargin Dalamaska from Final Fantasy XII game developed by Squaresoft. Ash was bought in 2010, and at present year of 2015, Ash is currently 5 years old Asus laptop, rocking the G74S series from the Republic of Gamer laptop. It was very expensive, even after a serious discount that I received, which I assume that you can check via online if you really wish to know her price. While being really expensive, Ash was worth every cent, because even after 5 years, I rarely met another laptop that can match her amazing features. In addition, I had my phone that lasted 5 years, and also an iPod which was called Freya, At the moment, Freya is 7 years old. One of the longest lasting items that I had was my motorcycle, which was known as Chelsea Hikaru. She was 16 years old, but at the moment I do not think that she could function anymore. So I am currently using my bicycle, which I also call Chelsea Hikaru, and currently aged more than 7 years old. Essentially, the reason that I share such information was to share my concept of spending and moderation living as I understood from the teachings of Islam. Do not be too stingy and do not be too extravagant in spending. Be moderate. So you see, the clothes that I wore in those pictures were essentially the same clothes that I wore in my lifetime. I do not replace them until they were truly worn out, where I were no longer able to wear them. I still had my black motorcycle jacket that was given by my brother in 2002, which meant it is currently 13 years old. I also still had my yellow winter jacket that I had for around 13 years old. Basically, what I am trying to explain here was the fact that I do not purchase items based on the current trends and fashions. I do not replace my item as long as they were still usable and in working condition. In fact, I observe the same concept will apply to my parents. My father had a Volvo which lasted around 30 years old, and the white Protonvera car that currently belonged to my sister was around the age of 25 years old. It was not because they do not have money to purchase a newer vehicle, but I believe that they also practice moderation in living based on the teachings of Islam. The motorcycle that my father bought during my studies in diploma at UiTM campus Mangatal at 2001 is currently available now at the age of 14 years old. It was in great working condition, and the present owner of the motorcycle is also my sister. I knew that the present world today is more concerned about the popularity and trends that is ever changing. As a result, it had severely shortened the lifetime of product life cycle, which meant most of the products sold today rarely go beyond 2 to 3 years. It means that it promotes the culture of always buying new things and following the fashion and trends of society. Moreover, my analytical observation had deduced that such culture also promoted towards the concept of materialism and hedonism. It encourages extravagant spending and lavish lifestyle that defies the concept of moderation based on the teachings of Islam. What is worse was the fact that it promoted the practice of accumulation of debts and usury amongst the present society, which I had despised. I had focused my research related to this particular subject matter of riba, or usury, and debt in our present society. In fact, one of my findings might conclude towards the development of riba zombie virus epidemic that had afflicted almost all society in every part of this world. Notwithstanding, I would not attempt to explain about this issue further in this book, because I intended to write a whole book about it based on the facts, proofs, and evidence that I had collected to support the theory. When you consider the present environment and the state of living for our masses public today, it would be inevitable to admit that most of our society had been consumed in materialism and hedonism, which can be seen as popular trends and lavish living lifestyles. In an example, if a man wished to marry a woman today, the father of the bride would ask questions about income, employment, type of car owned, and other informations that will focus about his materialistic success. If a man were to marry a woman in about 20 years ago or more, the father of the bride would ask questions about prayer, knowledge of Islam, Quran knowledge, and so forth, which indicated that his knowledge about the teachings of Islam. The simple comparison would implicate the changes in our society, in our present society, that had moved towards materialism and hedonism practice as the present popular and trendy way of living. Furthermore, the concept of extreme lifestyle, such as extreme sports, extreme fitness, extreme wealth, and so on, would clearly violate the concept of moderation based on the teachings of Islam. In the present society, it seemed that no one wished to live in moderation and preferred to embrace the concept of extremism. It is presently perceived that moderation is lame, whereas the extreme is cool. So which one are you, the reader, in your lifestyle choice? Me, I chose moderation living because it is what Islam teaches me to do. Am I lame? Sure, sue me. With that, it ends the chapter 50. Thank you very much for listening and hope to see you in the next chapter. See you soon.